We all remember the incident that captured the attention of a whole country and the most prestigious newspapers around the world, when El Universo, the newspaper with the most popularity and tradition in Ecuador, considered by many a newspaper whose credibility is unimpeachable, was sued by Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa for libel charges. Emilio Palacio, the newspaper's editor, wrote and published an opinion article in which he called the president a dictator and accused them of allowing the troops to open fire at a hospital during the uprising that intended to overturn President Correa. President Correa sued the newspaper and argued that such a statement was not an opinion but a defamation since it was presented as a fact. And it has been since 2009 that the Ecuadorian leader has tried to reform the communication laws under the Project of the Organic Law of Communication, translated to English. The bill has been rejected severely by the opposition and the journalists who see the proposed law as a violation of freedom of speech and the press. The group opposing the reform has even adopted the gag law, as they see the bill as a way to silence the people. According to the Superintendents of Telecommunications, 86% of radio frequencies are controlled by the private sector, while 71% of TV frequencies are the property of these for-profit organizations. We have the opinion of 3 Ecuadorians. 2 of them are New York residents, and the third one has been directly affected by the media debate. Web producer based in New York, Gabriel Romero, shared his view about the Ecuadorian media.
Support local channels so that concentration of power doesn't stay in big corporations.
Monroe College student Alberto Negron expressed how he feels that the president has threatened the freedom of press that resulted from El Universo incident.
I personally think that it created an environment of fear amongst the whole press, because now somebody that has something to report, and if it's going to be against the government, whether it's true or not, they're going to be afraid. And then even more so, I mean, if it's true, they're going to be afraid, because since the government already showed that they can be judge and party, because the government presented the lawsuit, and then the judges that were appointed by the government were the ones that made the final decision. I mean, it's like the journalists are going to be in a lose-lose situation. They can win. Even if they're right, they're going to be wrong.
And from Guayaquil, we have web design student Stefany Ordenana in an interview in which she defends the freedom of speech of her country.
The right to communicate, freedom of speech, and the access to public information constitute to the democracy, and they are part of the nucleus of dignity and autonomy of the people. And these are rights that the government is supposed to protect. There is no democracy if the citizens of a nation are not free to express their political views without being pressured by such government. This is the reason why I think that Korea is not following the law of communication that has been established for many years in Ecuador. Is not protecting the media, and this is not right, because the media is the voice of the people.
While Ecuadorian citizens have mixed feelings about the role of the government and the media, communications expert Tiffany Knowles shares her point of view. When asked about the relationship between the government and the media, this was her answer.
Okay, I've always believed in the marketplace of ideas concept, so the media having its place in the world to portray as many viewpoints as possible about what people think, what people believe, what people advocate for. Now, I don't believe that the government should control media, well, not entirely, because if that's the case, then that marketplace of ideas concept goes out the window. In this country, in the United States, we have 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, judicial, and I've always believed the 4th branch has been the media. It's that checks and balances. So the media has its place in government, where if you're doing something wrong, we've got to be those watchdogs to say, okay, the people need to know about this. The people need to know about what's going on in the courts, in our head of states. We need to know what's going on. So I think the media has its place to expose government to a certain extent, and also it must be subject to certain rules so that we're not putting people's lives in danger, we're not jeopardizing national security, but I do not think it should be controlled by the government. It should be that external branch that serves as a watchdog for the other branches of government.
And then she was asked if giving too much power to the media would benefit a small group of people.
Okay, all right. So I think that there should be laws, there should be policy, there should be regulations to govern the media, absolutely. For example, the issue of national security. The media should be very, very cautious, and there should be rules governing how they expose certain confidential information. I also think that the media, their one main interest should be to educate and inform the public. So if they are no longer doing that, or if they've been doing that, if they maybe have made that a secondary objective, I think there might be an opportunity for the government to come in and check them. And if that is the case, then the government should proceed cautiously as well. So it's not a tyrannical overturning of the media, because I still believe that media should be that fourth watchdog branch. But yeah, I mean, if that's the case, the government should do something.
However, President Rafael Correa doesn't think so. He doesn't believe that the media represents the people. In fact, he believes that the media censors information and hides information from the people. In an interview done by Julian Assange, he explains how this is possible.
Well, Julian, you are a good example of what the press is like, as well as these associations like the Inter-American Press Association, which is simply an association of newspapers in Latin America. Many books have been written about your WikiLeaks in Latin America, the last one by two Argentinian authors featuring a country-by-country analysis. And in the case of Ecuador, it shows how, in a shameless way, the media did not publish those cables or news which affected them. For instance, disputes amongst information and news groups. In the end, to avoid being discredited, they reach an agreement not to air their dirty linen in public. I will read you one of the WikiLeaks documents the Ecuadorian press never published. The fact that the press feels free to criticize the government, and yet it is unable to do so with a fugitive banker and his family businesses, speaks volumes about where power resides in Ecuador. These are the messages made public by WikiLeaks, yet unpublished by the Ecuadorian press.
Whether or not people believe that President Correa is threatening or censoring journals in Ecuador, truth is that he will continue fighting to get the reform done in the communications laws, which he thinks that are affecting his government and the people.